This is Mark. Mark and I are doing a program in Dubai, and essentially what we're doing is we're running a leadership negotiation program. So I've put Mark on the spot for this. So I just want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts in regards to leadership? What makes really effective leadership?
What makes really effective leadership? Look, there's I guess a lot of moving parts when it comes to leadership. Yeah. It all starts with character.
Really?
It all comes down to character. I think when people have a good intent in leadership, and that's true through their nature, that shines through. So whether it be a good decision or a bad decision, if people can see that the leader is intent on going in a direction that's supporting them, that's helping them to remove the obstacles between their ability to perform exceptionally well and not perform exceptionally well, and I think that's a huge component.
Because it's really interesting. So what I've seen in like Australia, Philippines, even over here in UAE, is this whole thing about authenticity. There seems to be this growing trend about authenticity. I don't know if it's a millennial thing or whether it's the fact that people just want to see what's up front, what's open, honest. Are you finding the same? Because you're based in Germany now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So what are you finding in just Stuttgart?
Yeah, authenticity is an interesting concept, isn't it? And I guess at a time in the world when we millennials, you mentioned, you know, they're more questioning, they're more challenging of authority. They don't like things that look forced or that look that concept of everything being spun. And I think that, you know, if you think of political leaders around the world these days, there's a sense that we want something real.
Yeah. And so do you think that impacts on like team culture, team engagement, those types of things? Do you think there's a connection between the authentic leader and the authentic team? Do you think it's a cascading scenario?
Yeah, and I guess again with millennials, it's almost, it's not just that it's cascading down, it's almost being demanded from below, and there's a real need for that to be met. And I think there's also just a natural need in leadership to find your own voice within. And look, I've always felt that one of the greatest characteristics of anyone is a sense of humility. Now, of course, there's strategy and there's capability to create the right direction, and you need those hard skills as well. I just think that we've got very good at learning those things now, and they can be educated. But what can't is that authenticity, that character, the integrity, and the humility to lead in a way in which people say, we may not get it right every single moment, but that person has a clear vision, going in the right direction, and has the right intent for us and all the other stakeholders in this, whatever situation business they're in.
Okay. Are you finding that like changing demographics, you know, baby boomers, Generation X's, you know, that aging workplace is starting to migrate out of the workplace? Do you think the shift of power or the shift of dynamics is starting to come into play? I do. I think there's, the environment is changing, the landscape is changing, and again, geopolitically around the world, are we just about making profit? How much should more humanistic interests play a part? And I think there is a yearning, I think, to create profitability and success in business and in the economic landscape, taking into consideration other factors. Yeah. So you've come from New Zealand, based in the eastern states in Australia. Now you're located in Germany. What have you found the differences between the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere? Are you noticing differences with the different projects that you're working on?
Yeah, look, I guess differences and similarities. You know, the whole thing of authenticity is absolutely global. Yeah, it's a human characteristic, underlying whatever culture or environment. One thing I've always felt from the travels that I've done, and as you said, living in Sydney, living in the UK, living in the Middle East, one of the key differences I find is that down under, the markets are somewhat smaller, and maybe because we're slightly more disconnected from tradition, but we do tend to have a more open, more innovative approach, and not to be so constrained by the way things were.
Because that's really interesting. Edward de Bono, the creator of the Six Thinking Hats, lateral thinking,
the reason why he likes to come down to Australia is our fresh thinking. And what he says is the culture of Australia is only 200, 250 years old.
Yeah.
Where if you're looking at Eastern European, the culture is 2,000, 2,500.
Yeah.
So the mindset is different through our isolation and a need for innovation, as opposed to a style and approach that's adversarial and adversarial thinking as opposed to parallel thinking.
Absolutely, yeah. And in addition, especially from New Zealand, my neck of the woods, the market is smaller. Even Sydney versus London. You know, at one point in my life, I invested in a salad bar concept in New Zealand, and it was based on an English model, and it was an incredibly successful business. And we bought the rights to their operating manuals and procedures, thinking that this blueprint. Yeah,
there you go, hidden gems. Yeah.
It was interesting. And so we took this blueprint of success from the UK and we put it into Auckland, and we found that because the market was so much smaller, you make one mistake, or if you are too slow to adapt or to innovate, you know, you could lose too much of the share of market that you had. One variable, you know, roadworks on Queen Street, and all of a sudden half of your very precious small market would disappear. So you had to be incredibly agile, you had to be extremely forward thinking to get a decent slice of a comparatively small pie.
So I can relate to that. I was on holidays in France with my wife, and the hotel was actually opposite a traditional French restaurant. And so we're there for a few days. We just sort of decided, where shall we eat? And every time we went out, we walked past this beautiful Korean barbecue restaurant that was just always full every night. But every night, the old man across the road in a French restaurant, he'd be going, how come they're so busy? And his son was standing next to me. He's going, but Dad, look at that. Look at that. We need to do that. And the father's going, no. Like you can just tell by the body. And you know, and I sat there thinking, that's a real snapshot of business, isn't it? That you know, sometimes you may get stuck in the ways, but sometimes you need to look outward in order to look for innovations.
And innovation is going to be a key going forward in the Northern Hemisphere, as I can see it. As you said, I'm in Germany now, looking at the auto industry and how do they compete in Germany with the likes of Uber, Google, Apple, all
Amazon's coming online now to do deliveries.
And Amazon's got deliveries. So how does this change the face of transportation? And are the likes of Mercedes, VW really geared up to be flexible enough to reconsider who they are and what do they do for the marketplace? And I think there's got to be a big engineering back to what's the job? What's the job that your customer has that needs to be done that causes them to come and buy your product?
Yeah, true. You know, and is the vehicle that you need, does it need to have wheels? Or now with drone technology coming on board, is it the fact that driverless cars, drone technology is going to revolutionise the logistics industry?
Exactly. And so does the auto industry need to invest more in computing? You know, how do they compete, and have they got that capacity to look across the road at the old man? Now they're sitting there, Apple, Google, Uber, Amazon. Gee, they are busy. Have they got the capacity to look at that and say, we need to make perhaps more radical feeling change to our business?
True. Interesting.
It is.
Thanks for putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
You better get on and do that course.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. See you.